Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Noodling. In this episode, I wanted to share with you these loose recreations of Blender Rocket. Um, everything is everything you see here is actually procedurally generated, including the logo itself. Although it's kind of tricky, but yeah, the rocket itself was the design was based on this thing, Blender Rocket. You get this when you're supporting the code quest back then, but it's as you can see, it's no longer can be found. I don't know. Some of you might already have this. Maybe you can still order it from Blender Foundations. I don't know, but that's the original design. Something you can hang into the keyring, and it's a USB flash. Okay, so this is what I got. I recreate this using Sverchok add-on. Everything is nodes, including this metaball smoke. Maybe that's not very important, but as you can see, the bottom part, I made it kind of procedural. Everything is kind of random. The shapes can change, so you can have if you have 5,000 frames, there's gonna be like 5,000 different design. I didn't change the top part much, but you can actually make this taller or maybe smaller, fatter, and the logo itself you can change into your own logo. And the top part I thought is kind of cute as well. The whole rocket actually looks a bit like a lava lamp or maybe a blender, like a futuristic blender. Very very futuristic and retro at the same time. So yeah, I like this design, for example. So it's a good idea to just simply go through the whole nodes thing. Let me, is it better if I have it on the side maybe? So I'm gonna close this and then reopen, split. So 3D viewport, so I'll get this thing and T, okay. All right, so let's see how I create this. Only a few different parts, and you can probably can guess how this can be created. It's all basically a cylinder. Yeah, cylinder MK2 does all the job. So let's see from the top here. Oh, actually that's the most bottom part. Maybe I should hide the meta bulbs first of all. Okay, so the bottom part. This is actually kind of like a rock or like the base where the rocket actually stands. Um, Kind of interesting. Oh, actually, this is maybe where the exhaust for the big fire down there. So you need that part. So the way I create it is a cylinder MK2. If I unplug this, it's just basically a cylinder. And then I plug this into the parallels. The size of parallels matching this number. I can have more or less. Oops. This is the meridians. Oh, actually, it's actually the meridians. So meridians profile related to the parallels. So I can randomize the seed to get a different base shape. So I did put a randomness there, but it's basically a cylinder. On top of the cylinder, I have the bevel and also subdivisions. That's why you have this interesting hard edge look. The next one, let's hide this. And the next one is this guy. Or actually it's the top part, right? Yes, the top part. These two parts is also based on the cylinder. I just make sure that the top part is actually just smaller at the top, kind of like a lava lamp again. So I can actually tweak the top and the bottom part. You can make them fatter. What's interesting here, of course, is I'm using this easing 0 to 1. So you can use math formula just to get the shape you want. It's kind of nice. Look at this. So having that kind of design based on the math formula kind of make it kind of like a, is that a cheat or a clever way to get a interesting shape of curve, because they look kind of perfect. Okay. Oh yeah, for the top part, I actually cheated and just used the same setup, just make it smaller. So this part, the cap, I think the design really, this setup that I'm doing can be so much better. I mean, so that it's actually gonna be a working design for blend, kind of like for Blender or lava lamp. If this part can be like a glass, for example. So I have explained the top part. Let's go to the next one. Oh, the Blender logo. Yeah, Blender logo one is slightly complicated. It was actually based on a curve. So this curve was actually everything is procedural. It was created by one of the Blender developers. You can get this if you go back to Blender 2.79 and find there is one setup that created this. Maybe I should show you. So let's go back to the past, travel back in time. Blender 2.79. Everything is using right mouse button to select. It's not that hard really to use right click. This is sphere chalk. There's an example, and then there's the shapes. Blender logo. This is the setup. It's pretty amazing. So Blender logo is looking like, yeah, a little bit like that. And this thing is still procedural. You can see, you can play around with this shape. Oh, what is this? Offset. This circle. Yeah, this look thicker, less. It's kind of cool. And then this is something you can bake. And this is a polygon. And then if you go to F3, oh no, space, convert to curve. Where is convert to curve? Oh, I need to select the objects. Convert to curve. It's become a curve, and with the curve you can bevel it. 2D bevel. Offset, extrude. So that's the Blender logo, and that's what I have here. I actually, this is the curve, and I converted using sphere chalk, and then after that you get this because I put it in place, and then I'm solidifying it, remesh it, and then shrink it. Oh, string wrap project into this guy. It's not perfect like the original design, but this can be better anyway. So continue to the next part. This part is interesting. This was made of random shapes. It's the fin of the rocket. So you can have more than 4 pins. Like you can have 8, for example. I think that 4 is good. And so everything is procedural. It's basically a plane randomized. So this is where you get the randomizations of this part. Plane randomized, solidify, so you get a thickness. I'm using the factor drop and then rotate it. It's a factor drop is kind of a way to drop the shape into the floor, so you can have. So that's why if I'm doing this, I'm using this thickness setting. It's always centered, slightly confusing, this vector drop, but it's very useful. If you have any shapes and you wanted to drop everything and center it, use vector drop. And then the rotations is just to place them, put them in the spot for the fin. Oh, yeah. You can, of course, animate it. And here I have a way to merge it and put it into array. Circle, matrix normal, matrix multiply, just to place it. I think it's kind of interesting. It needs to be explained because the idea is there. Maybe the nodes will change, Blender will change. Maybe this setup will not work anymore, but the idea is there, so you can rebuild it. So, and the bottom part, yeah, this is also the rocket, the bottom part of the rocket, which is basically another cylinder. What's interesting here is this. I'm using some randomness to add a more interesting shape. So originally it's just the math formula. If you hold Control Shift and then middle mouse button scroll, you can change the something like this in Blender, like a drop down menu. On top of that, I have this add plugged into the meridians of the cylinder MK2, and so we have this design. I think we can increase this. Oops. So I can have like something that's a bit more detail, something like that, I think, and randomize. So yeah, this is also quite interesting in term of basic procedural modeling and thinking using nodes. This is also nice. It's almost like a light bulb, right? You can create a similar design based on this idea. So I think this is all pretty basics, but someone have to do it using Blender anyway. And with Sweatchalk in the future, maybe you can have you're gonna have like a different nodes tool in Blender, who knows. But this is, I think, really good way to understand the basic of procedural modeling. So hopefully you enjoy this. Thanks to Blender Rocket. Hopefully I can borrow this idea again in the future. I want to turn this into AR, augmented reality. Oh, the logo needs to be fixed. But yeah, it's funny. Maybe this part can be a glass and we put a monkey head inside, or put something else. What do you think? Yeah, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.